Hey, this is Brian O'Halloran. You must know me from such great films as Clerks, Chasing Amy, Mallrats, Vulgar, Brutal Massacre. Anyway, you're listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Marshal Hilton, who's BD of Primal Rage, amongst many other films. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What a great intro you do.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been doing it for 13 years, so hopefully I have it down by now.
Yeah, well, if it's working, stay with it.
Right, exactly. So Primal Rage, I've seen it. I loved it. I like Bigfoot stuff in general, but usually Bigfoot movies are kind of hit and miss. This one's totally original. So how did you get involved in Primal Rage?
It was, just one of those, Hollywood things, was asked to come and meet, went and met with Patrick and Angela, the producer, Angela Lee, and did a reading, talked about it, and they ended up, Patrick, they called and wanted me to meet Patrick out at his studio out here in California in the Valley, San Fernando Valley. And I went out and, walked into this very innocuous industrial complex with a big sliding door. You'd never know what the hell's in there. And it was like, overload. There was just covered on the ceiling, on the wall, with these amazing monsters all over them. First thing you see is the original Alien mold. You see the original Predator. You see all these amazing things, and you're just like, holy shit, and he's got his crew of people in there working, and they're banging out, and they're working on stuff, and it was just a lot of great stuff. And he took me into his office, and we talked about he showed me the concept trailer for the movie, because he's been working on this movie for over 10 years. And then he showed me the Bigfoot suit, which was 3 years in the making by hand, single hairs. The attention to detail was phenomenal. There was 2 bodies, there was 3 animatronic heads, and they worked off those little remote control things like you'd fly a plane with or a car or whatever. And I just turned to him and I said, I'm in. It's done. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even read the script yet. You just know when you're around, when you're in the presence of somebody that's got that much passion and there's that level of detail, who's really an artist, and his mind is so in it. You have to do it. There was no question. It was hands down a done deal. And then I remember turning to my left and looking at this table, and I literally kind of jumped back and went, "Oh shit!" And there was 5 busts. The 500, the hunters in my crew. Yeah. He knew all those guys, and they were friends, and he had cast them well before I was involved. And a year before that, he had done body casts from the waist up with lifelike recreations of them in their full face and everything, and they were all painted and airbrushed in skin tone with glass eyes, and their eyebrows were mink fur, and their hair was and they looked so damn real, and their faces were all contorted in these poses like they were in horrifying pain and shit. He knew how they were going to die.
Yeah.
It was just like, Jesus Christ, this is yeah.
Yeah.
When and where?
Real quick, just for people not aware, Patrick's background is in special effects.
Patrick's been in the game for a long, long time. He went through Stan Winston's apprenticeship program at the Winston School, and then he moved on and did work with Rick Baker, who was very influential in the Alien and the Predator films and Planet of the Apes and things of that nature, who's, regarded as kind of took the mantle from Winston. And he's got history with Alien and Predator as well. He's one of those guys that's just, I mean, he's just an artist, man. He's just a stone freaking artist. And his creations are really something else. His recreations are really good too. He's got a relationship with Nicotero, the Walking Dead guys. They know each other well. Patrick works with him back and forth regarding to, some of the zombie stuff for the Universal City, the Walking Dead tours. Patrick's, his crew is doing stuff. He's been in the game a while. And do you remember John Landis, his latest book?
Yeah, of course.
It's got that werewolf on the cover.
Mm-hmm.
That's Patrick's.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He's people that are into monsters that really know their shit. They know Patrick.
Yeah. That comes through in Primal Rage because it seems to all practical effects. I assume it's all practical effects and great effects of the Bigfoot itself and all the gore scenes, all very brutal and realistic and just looks great.
Yeah, it to see that thing on the first day, kind of slithering around, with his camouflage that Bigfoot uses to hide himself, all the bark and the masks and all that shit. What's really, I mean, the detail on Patrick's work is just so amazing. That camouflage that he wears, that Bigfoot wears, Pat went up and made plaster casts of the tree bark up there and brought it back down and then repainted it and recreated it.
Yeah.
He showed me the fingers and the toes that had fingerprints.
Oh, wow.
That kind of detail. Now, nobody will ever know that. Nobody in the movie, nobody will ever see that in the movie, but it doesn't matter because the only person it mattered to was Patrick because he knows it's there. And when you have somebody that's working on that kind of a layer, that level of a detail, you've got somebody that you're working with that is just supreme in his craft, And the practical effects when we were shooting, there's a couple of moments there. I can't really talk about them right now, but there was some shit that happened. It was freaking nasty. It was absolutely nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil the movie at all, but there's definitely my favorite. I'll just say my favorite head splitting scene I've ever seen in a movie. I don't think that gives away too much.
Is that the one? Awesome. Is that the one where the guy? Is that the one where the guy goes to the dentist?
Pretty much, yeah. From open wide.
That was. I was front and center on that. I watched every moment of that, and it was. You're an actor. You're playing. It's fantasy. It's bullshit. You're lying for the camera. You're telling a story that horror movies are nothing to shoot. They're not that. They're not scary. It's very predictable. But that shit was hard to watch. That shit was hard to watch. It really was. It was just like, oh fuck, oh no, So yeah, this version. This movie doesn't reinvent the wheel, okay? But what this movie does is it reinvents Bigfoot.
Definitely.
And no longer is it the warm and fuzzy beast. It's flora and fauna that's shy, that's going to run and hide and all that shit. That's the image. And I haven't seen a lot of Bigfoot movies, I just haven't. But the ones I've seen don't really approach Bigfoot in nearly the prehistoric missing link manner. Intelligent, stealth, incredibly dangerous, cunning, just the way that he took his spirit to be a completely different type of entity, very prehistoric. It reinvents it that way, I think.
Yeah, I've never seen I've never seen Bigfoot presented like that in any of the movie. And it was kind of a Predator vibe, I thought, even though it's totally different than Predator, but kind of a same idea with Bigfoot. But I like it's kind of go on, sorry.
No, so go ahead.
I was just saying, I like the kind of the role reversals throughout the movie, where it's kind of like what you would assume is a wild beast, has intelligence, and then like people that are civilized have to become brutal and barbaric and wild themselves, and the kind of role reversals with the hunters themselves. Hunter becomes the hunted, and vice versa.
Yeah, my character is kind of set out there, and you anticipate that he's going to be the antagonist in this film. Even and you just even though we come to find out later that there's something that's just far more gnarly than BD, his big mouth, and his lecherous crew of merry men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're. Like you said about you think your guy's the villain, the antagonist of the movie, and then there's a bigger, and that's another thing. A lot of the Bigfoot movies, even when they are a Bigfoot that might kill somebody, it's more presented as they're just kind of protecting their environment and not necessarily doing something evil or bad. But I think this one is more, even though I guess you could make the argument with this, but it's still more of a villain in this movie.
What, Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I guess it depends how you look on any. I guess you could make the same argument with the hunter itself hunting animals. So it's
yes,
all your point.
You can. It's all your point of view and your context. Just a little history. For example, when Patrick was showing me the weapons that Bigfoot was using. And he made these weapons, a knife out of the jawbone of a bear, where you can still see the teeth in the handle. So a lot of the bones of his victims, that whatever he killed and ate, he would utilize those bones to make tools. The bow and arrow that he uses, and those straps that he's using to carry it, those straps are made from human skin. He uses them as leather. So, I mean, everything in his world is about surviving and utilizing the elements, and he's intelligent enough to be able to put those things together. He's, it's a different, completely different psychology, a level of intelligence that he presents Bigfoot as.
Now, did you know Patrick at all before this?
Never met him. And what's funny? I don't even remember him being as tall as he was. When I met him, he was sitting down in a chair, and Angela was at a table, and the DP J. Lee, who did an amazing job. The footage is strikingly shot. It's just really shot well. They were there, and he never got up. And so when they called and they wanted me to meet him at the studio, when I drove out to the studio, this guy that's 6'10" opens the door, and I'm like, holy shit, you're tall. I didn't know how, because he's the Bigfoot. Patrick, the director, is Bigfoot.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I was going to ask you about that.
Oh,
yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. No, Patrick is in the suit. So the suit, he made the suit custom to his body. I mean, that thing fit him like a glove. It was like a second skin. So when he entered the door, I was like, God dang, dude, you're freaking tall, And then he goes, well, I'm Bigfoot in the suit. And I'm like, oh man, So there was a lot of funny times, when I've got a lot of pictures that I can't show right now, but maybe later. You're working on a scene, and he's been shooting in the morning, and you got this guy that's 6'10", and his head is plopped off of his body, and it's sitting on a chair, and he's got this big bald head and these black eyes from the makeup, and he's directing, telling people to, it was odd. Yeah, and he still got, and he had, he'd take the hands off, so he had these human hands, these big white hands sticking out of this Bigfoot body, and there's this bald head right up to the neck, and his head sticking out. It's like a football player. It was funny. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. Where was the movie shot? Because it looks like it's obviously not a set.
No. We were based in Crescent City, California, which is a little fishing town, probably about I don't know, 10 miles from the border of Oregon, 15 miles from the border of Oregon. And then from there, we drove about a half an hour to a private property reserve, 1,200 acres, owned by this family. And they had shot, from what I understand, don't quote me on this, it's not, some of the E.T. stuff was shot up there, and some of the Star Wars stuff, the forest stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was 1,200 acres, and, it had, the river going through it. And, we were basically just really seriously just moving around a forest canopy. And, it was just so awe-inspiring because, you got to think that, where they would say, okay, I need you to walk over to that big tree over there next to that rock. It's about 250, 300 yards. Walk that way. And we'd start walking, and we're probably walking through places people have never even stepped foot on.
Mm-hmm. Is there any hardships to that, working in the elements?
Well, if it would have been how he originally envisioned it to be, his original visual muse was that dank, rainy forest from Rambo: First Blood.
Okay.
You remember that?
That would have been, yeah. That would have been much more difficult.
Oh, that would have been miserable as hell, dude. It would have been cold and nasty. And to be honest with you, that's how he wanted it. And for 10 years, he's been going up to that location. And every time he went up there, it was miserable, rainy, and wet and nasty. And we get up there to start shooting, and they have the best weather they've had in 75 years. That's the way it goes. Sun, beautiful. Anyway, it was not that. It wasn't challenging. I've shot movies out in Joshua Tree when it's 114, running around shooting guns, and this was. Now that was just from my perspective. From AJ and Casey, the two young actresses that played Max and Ashley, their story was a lot different. They had, they did some challenging shit. Jump, falling.
Yeah, and they don't
cliffs.
have. Plus, they don't have a lot of clothes on. It's probably harder to walk around, just in the woods, I would think.
Yeah, their plight was much more difficult than ours. That's for sure. But it was a totally enjoyable. It was one of the best shoots I've been on in probably 20 years. I've said this in every interview. It's not the size of the movie; it's the size of the heart of the movie. And this was a little film, but it had a ton of heart. And the passion, everybody was in it, and it was an amazing time. It was one of the best I've had.
Yeah, it really comes through because I get a lot of screeners for the show, and I don't want to name names stuff, but a lot of them I watch and whatever. But then when something comes through that I really like, and I always think like you said, passion really comes through in the movie. They really want to make something good, and even if it's a low budget, I think the production value is so high because it looks great. Like you said, it was shot so well. The scenery is amazing, and all the practical effects they're some of the best I've seen.
It's a small budget in regards to traditional Hollywood, but it's not as it's not as small as you think.
Mm-hmm.
It's small compared to something, but it's not $100,000 movie. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that. He's probably got $250,000 just in the suit. Yeah. If you were to add in labor, time, employees, costs of putting it together, all that shit. If you were going to go buy that suit from him to shoot your movie, you'd probably be paying that kind of money for that suit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because there's two bodies and three heads and all the animatronics. There's a lot of equity in what he did.
Yeah. It's opening February 27th. Have you seen it with an audience yet? Any kind of screenings?
I saw the one friends and family screening that was offered up about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. This movie's taken 2 years to shoot, so
yeah.
I saw it with friends and family, and it just happened to be that there was probably 300 350 friends and family there, you know. And I generally don't watch my films. Actually, I almost never do. But this one was different, and I needed to go see it. And, you know, pretty much friends and family of a practical effects guy are going to be practical effects lovers, you know? And even some of those people were like, "Oh shit, no, you know, that kind of stuff, you know."
Right.
And it's there's no question that if you got to save your money to go and see a film, and it's going to be expensive or whatever, tickets for this film are not that much. This is a film that you got to see in a theater. You have to do it in a theater because it's so epic and big in the place that it's been. And, you know, the sound design in a theater was just thundering when it gets going. And, you know, the footsteps and the growl and the snarl and just the music and it's just, it gets going, and it's definitely a theater movie. You've got to try and catch it in the theater. And the way they're going to do it with a one-night Fathom event showing is you're going to catch it that one night. And for $12 or whatever, plus they're going to be featuring, it's going to have a featurette, kind of like the behind the scenes, the making of. So there's going to be cast interviews. There's going to be footage of Patrick and his crew making the Bigfoot, and there's going to be behind the scenes stuff. And he's going to be talking and Q&A and stuff like that. So it's more of the total experience of concept, the making of, and then the movie as well. And, you know, for 3 hours of your time, I guess, you know, for $12, and you get to, you know, experience it, you know, for your people out there. I don't call it a horror film. I think that's kind of doing it a misjustice, to be honest with you. I think it's more of an action adventure thriller with some horror aspects. Cause I mean, come on, it's freaking Bigfoot, you know, there's going to be some carnage for sure. But yeah, it's one night. And so I had heard that if it went well, they might do another event in another region. I think it's going to be 350, 400 cities, something like that. And then they're going to, and then they're going to take it straight to Europe. And it's going to have a formal theatrical release there. Blue Fox is taking it to Berlin, and they're going to do a theatrical release throughout Europe. Because the Fathom events, are you familiar with the company?
No, not actually.
It's a company that's owned by AMC Theaters, Regal Theaters, and Cinemark. And they own, or the principal equity partners, from what I understand, in Fathom Events. And so they are basically picking titles that they think are branded enough to where they don't have to deal with the studio. They make their deal direct with the filmmaker and the sales rep or whatever. And so they can promote them and advertise them for a month or 60 days right in their theaters and every trailer for every movie that they're going to do for the next month or two. And so it's kind of like a concert event. It's kind of like if you wanted to go watch Manny Pacquiao fight somebody and you see it in the theater, Fathom Events will do that. Concerts, you know, things like that. And so if something's got branded to the point where there's an awareness in the world within the population, they'll take stuff on. And I think that's why they took on Bigfoot. Because I mean, you know, where you live, where you at?
Massachusetts.
You're in Boston. You go out.
I'm
if you were to walk outside.
Yeah,
but if you were to walk outside and ask 10 people if they've ever heard of Bigfoot, chances are probably all 10 of them would probably say, yeah, right?
Yeah. Of course.
Well, it's the same in China, and it's the same in Russia and Europe. Bigfoot's got a brand, and you might not believe in him, but you know who he is. So, you know, for them, you know, they're taking on a project that has that kind of awareness level. So they're going to do it that one night, and then after Europe, I think they're going to probably drop a VOD at some point in time. For sure, they are. I just don't know when. But you should catch it in the theater.
To me, there's nothing like watching a movie in the theater. I've got some theaters in Boston that show a lot of independent stuff, and any kind of movie. To me, even old movies, they show midnight movies at Coolidge near me. And it's even if you've seen a bunch of times, there's nothing like the experience of watching a movie on the big screen. it's nice to have
Bigfoot,
watch it on your computer or whatever, but it's not the same as watching a movie on the big screen.
Bigfoot, 30 feet tall, snarling down your ass, screaming and hollering.
Exactly.
You know, boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's just pounds on you. You know. Yeah. That's the way to watch the film. If you search it, I'll bet you if you have an AMC close to you, you'll be able to get to one.
Yeah, I would love to see it in the theater.
How far are you from Boston?
Well, it's about 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
I go up there a lot to do stuff. It's worth it to me.
I would bet you if you search Bigfoot it's called Primal Rage Bigfoot Reborn, and then you put in AMC or Regal or Cinemark, bang, it'll pop right up, and you just type in your zip, it'll tell you. I would be surprised if it isn't around out there somewhere.
Cool. Actually, you mentioned the Fathom events. I do know what that is because that's what they did with Rob Zombie's 31 a couple years ago. It was Fathom events, and they had like a Q&A with Rob Zombie and music videos. It was like a whole event. It wasn't just a movie.
That's exactly what they're going to do with this.
Yeah, very cool. I'm looking forward to that. I will definitely, not just because you're here, I'm going to see if I can go to that because I really thought the movie was great.
Yeah, you'll if you've already seen it on a screener or whatever, it'll be a different movie when you watch it in the theater, guaranteed.
Yeah. It's kind of a silly question, but how many cigars did you go through filming the movie?
Yeah, you went there. You're the first guy that's asked me that.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah. Well, he should be. You can tell, but certain people ask certain questions, and you can tell that they've been in the game a minute. Either on the production side, or they've had their hand in a little indie film production, or they worked on a horror film, or whatever. I went through a shitload of those things. They were low grade cigars. They were cheap. Didn't matter. I like smoking cigars personally, and these things were actually they were garbage. But I smelled like a freaking ashtray at the end of every day. As a matter of fact, they could smell me coming after a while, because my clothes were just reeking of it, The problem was trying to keep the length, because if you're doing a shot and you're doing your first setups and the cigar's like 2 inches long and you're down to the nub, you got to keep it at that thing would get low, and so they'd have to chop the end off of that cigar and relight the nub. And so it was just constantly, it wasn't I was smoking them all. It was just, a lot of them just got chopped off because you had to keep continuity. You don't want to see them with a nub, and then the next shot in the scene, the thing's freaking 8 inches long. You can't do that.
Right. Yeah. And that's something, it adds to the movie, even if you might not think about that, but.
Oh, I would say, I went through at least 100 of those. I had to.
Mm-hmm. What brand cigar do you normally smoke?
It really depends. I'm fond of I just had a senior moment. I just completely forgot. Punch. I like Punch cigars. And then there's a brand. God, what happened to me? I just lost my brand in my head. I'll think of it in a second. I'll spit it out in a minute.
Yeah. There was a listener of the show used to send me cigars, and so for a little while I was trying to smoke them. I gave up on the idea, but when I was looking just up about cigars, there was always this thing that said you were always supposed to take the band off the cigar because like it was considered like bragging or something. Like if you had a high brand cigar and you would show the band to other cigar smokers. I don't know if you're that far into cigar smoking or not.
That's like the guy that wears the giant Rolex. Okay.
Right.
and every time he's going to point to something, he makes sure that he gets you with that arm and he puts it right in your face. That guy.
Yeah.
I hate those guys.
So, not to give anything away in the movie, but where was the layer of the Bigfoot shot?
Not to give away anything in the movie. We at a location in Canyon Country, California. It was the last thing we shot.
Oh, okay. So it's like different from the other places.
Oh, it was shot a year later.
No, wow. Why was it? Is it just what do you know any reason why stuff is that just how movies are that you shot scenes a year later than the previous ones?
The film was, it was complex in regards to, there was we shot my stuff and the hunters we shot in February of 2015 for I don't know 3 weeks or something, and then they had to wrap it because there's only so much you can do in that amount of time, and so and there was there's this whole other side that they had to set up the Indian stuff and the spiritual stuff. And that little house and the teepee and all that other kind of stuff, they couldn't just do that all in once. So they went up, because Patrick is a detail guy, right? So we shot in February of 2015. They went back up in February of 2016, so the light would match, so the sun would be coming from the same angles. So you wouldn't be able to tell the difference in the lighting. That's the kind of detail he was at. And then they shot the rest of it, and they picked up the Native American stuff at that point in time as well, up there. And then they had to pick up, and they had time to see some of the stuff that they shot the first time out, and they were able to pick up some of the action. They ended up reshooting some of the fight scenes that they didn't really like. And so they did a bunch of other things, because there was some logistical stuff. There's a lot of things that they had to shoot in that movie. And so that gave them an extra 3 weeks to shoot all that, or 4 weeks, or whatever it was of that. And then by the time that was all done, they still had to do the layer stuff. And so they built a set in Canyon Country, which is kind of near Magic Mountain for the people, or California don't know. It's about 40 miles, 50 miles outside of LA. And we shot that after all that.
So, a previous movie you did, I have to ask about Devil Dogs of Kylo Company with my friend John.
The Devil Dogs of Kilo Company.
Kilo Company.
That's
with
fine.
My friend John Dugan's in it. What was that movie like to shoot? And do you have any John Dugan stories?
I honestly, for one thing, it's a stop motion film, and it was all voiceover.
With little green army men, right? Yeah.
With the little green army men, that shit is so cool. Funny little story. I saw the first little trailer. Somebody sent it to me on social media, the very original first trailer. And I was watching it, and I just went, holy shit. That's the freaking movie that I had in my head when I was 6 years old, digging in the dirt, playing with those fucking soldiers. That's the movie, right? Moving them around, going, and I would play with those things. And we would set up, me and my brother and my or friend or whatever, we would set up the green ones, and there was gray ones. There was two colors. And he would set up his, and we'd build bunkers and put trees and hide them behind rocks and do all these things and put them together. He would set his up, and then we would stand on behind each one of our armies and throw rocks at the positions and try and, take turns throwing rocks back and forth, destroying it until the guy had one left standing was the winner. Right? Right. And then we moved on to BB guns, and we moved the distance further back. And we would shoot BB guns at the soldiers until you could kill them all. I mean, that's what we did for hours as kids. And so when I saw this, I went, Jesus Christ, that's the movie. And so I found Bobby Easley, the director, on social media, and I said, dude, I want to be in this. I want to be in this.
Yeah.
And he said, and he said, okay. So I did my voiceover work with Bill Mosley, and what's his name? The guy that played Jason.
Kane Hodder.
Yes, what a funny character that guy is. I did my work with them at a recording studio in Burbank, But I did see that John Dugan painted himself up in green. and wore the green outfit and the green helmet and painted himself green, and he was a big plastic green army man when he did his recording. I just went, that's freaking awesome. You know, he sounds, to somebody to do that, he sounds like a complete, just absolutely character. He really does.
He definitely is.
Yeah, and we've traded some, you know, some just communications via social media back and forth. I've never met the man personally. He seems like a big character guy, though. He seems like an interesting fellow. There's no question about that.
Yeah. He's a good friend of mine. He's been on the show more than anybody, and met him a bunch of times at conventions, and we've had lots of drinks together. And so he's just like I said, he's great. He's a good character. He's very.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that he is. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we never really, you know, got to share the same space, but we're in the same movie, so you know that's cool.
Yeah. And I see
Bill Mosley.
Bill Mosley's a good guy too.
Yeah, I see him around a lot. You know, I'm with him a lot, but I mean, there's some conventions that I go to and do the signing stuff, and he you know, Bill's at Monsterpalooza and you know, some of the other things that roll around this way. Yeah, so I bump into him every now and then.
Mm-hmm. And so I have to ask, so do you believe in Bigfoot?
I'm a pragmatic guy. If it's not in front of me and I can't touch it, see it, smell it, it usually falls into my field of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I really am. And that's with everything. You know, religion, politics. You know, if I can't fall victim to messaging and hearsay from people that want to pound me with ideology or beliefs or whatever. I'm very pragmatic. You know, if I can touch it, if I can see it, and I can smell it, that's my reality, and that's what I deal with in the moment. Anything else other than that, then all I'm going to be doing is just spewing somebody else's thoughts, you know, somebody else's messaging, you know. Yeah. So I kind of tend to be kind of real, you know, in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of a doubter.
Yeah, I'd be the same way, but I always find it interesting. But the what kind of movies are you into? Not ones that you're in, but what ones you like to watch?
I like I love epic westerns. It's my favorite genre by far. Mm-hmm. I like. I'm not big on super high con. I wasn't a fan of Avatar. Right?
Okay.
I just went, okay. I get it. It didn't move me in a way. I have a very old spirit about me for some reason. Things that are dirty and gritty and tough, you know. Mm-hmm. I like things like that. I like to be moved emotionally by things of that nature. I tend to gravitate towards that kind of stuff. You know, I'm a fan of older films. I'm not a big rom-com guy. I'm not a guy that likes, you know, I'm not plunking down a movie to see a Ben Stiller film, you know, that kind of stuff. I just, you know, Zoolander and you know, the Legend of Ricky Bobby and that kind of stuff. I mean, I understand what it is, you know, but I just, you know, it's like, okay, you know, whatever. I like the older stuff. I think Clint Eastwood's movies are fucking amazing. Ridley Scott's stuff is just epic. You know, there are some movies that by filmmakers that might not be necessarily in that kind of a genre. Like, I think Forrest Gump is an amazing movie.
It is, yep.
I think Back to the Future is an amazing set of movies.
Mm-hmm.
Godfather kicks ass.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends. You know, I have not been watching a lot of the movies that have come out the last several years. It's not that I don't like watching movies. I just kind of, you know, I kind of wait for them to come through, you know, I'll catch them on Showtime or Cinemax or whatever. I like making them more than I do watching them.
I get you.
Because of the character, the craft work of it. That's why I do it. I really like the exploration of myself and character and script and collaboration with my director and my other actors and trying to find the nuances of humanity and deal with all that. And that, for me, is really what matters. You know, helps me get to know myself better.
Well, I did see an interview with you where you said that you got into acting originally because your mom would take you to auditions. So when did you realize though that you actually do love acting?
I would say probably not until I was in San Francisco, studying, working towards an MBA. I started off in theater and music because that's what I knew when I was in Santa Barbara in junior college, and I did that for 3 years, and then kind of flipped it and knew I had to make some money. And I went to San Diego State for about a year in the business department, and then I transferred to San Francisco, and I was up there working towards this MBA, and I wandered into an acting school, a studio. It's founded by this lady. Her name is Jean Shelton, and she was from the New York stage community. Strasberg, Stella Adler, Harold Clurman. She grew up with them. She knew Stella. They were friends as kids, and she brought that sensibility of New York theater and performance and character to San Francisco. And I walked in there, and I just went. The light went on, you know. And I said, you know what? I got a lot of experiences in my life that I can share, and the way that they're doing it here really got me going. And I knew that I would be moving back to LA because that's where I'm from. I was born here, so it was just around 89, 90-ish, 91, 92 is when I moved back, and I still didn't say I'm going to be an actor. That was never my mindset. It was just something that was just like I constantly was thinking about. And I didn't really come at it with the end game in mind, be a star and all that kind of shit. I was already 30-something years old at that point in time. So it was more, I liked doing it, and I liked digging deep and trying to figure shit out in scripts and character. And it was such a challenge to try and even get a part. It's the game. It's just when you finally get one, somebody. The best part for me is when the phone rings and they say they want you. I stand up wherever I'm at and go, fuck yeah. I do, because it's so hard. It's so hard. It's so competitive, and it's even harder now because now you used to just compete with LA and New York. Actors in LA, actors in New York, they cast, they shoot. Now, with the internet and uploading tapes and auditions and shit, it's not just New York and LA anymore. You're competing with everybody across the world now. So, they got a part in a film, and it's going to be in 2 or 3 scenes. They'll get 10,000, 15,000 submissions. It's freaking nuts. So when you do get one, it's just like, wow. So, I just keep working. As long as I keep doing this, I can't focus on the end game. I'm just in the game. And as long as they keep saying yes and I get a phone call and they want to hire me, then I'm in. And when that goes away, it goes away. That's it.
Yeah. I don't know if you can even answer this, but you said like if it's amongst like if 40,000 people, all these thousands of people try out for roles, how do you yourself stand out? What do you think it is about you that stands out to get the roles?
I have no idea, dude. I really don't. I think there's certain types of things that there's certain types of characters and certain types of stories and genres that when they come and you read it, you are instantly connected to it. You're reading a script for the first time and they want you to read for Bob, and every time there's a scene with Bob in it, the other character says this, and then you spit out of your mouth what Bob would probably say, and you look down at the line that's in the script and it's almost verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're connected. It's just, you just know it. And then it just happens that way. And when you can viscerally connect to whatever the emotional content of the piece is and what the character is going through or whatever, and you're connected like that, if you truly do the work thoughtfully on something like that, and you're connected, it reads, and people will see that and they go, that's the guy. That's the guy. I don't think I do anything different than a lot of other people. I mean, there's a lot of people that do this and they may work on different ways and different levels. Some people are more talented than others. Some people are less talented. Some of it is, your resume. Some of it is the way they feel about you. They know that you can do what needs to be done, and they're confident that you've solved that problem, so they can move on to the next problem. Because films are just nothing but giant, big boxes of fucking problems that you handle all the time. Cast, crew, camera, location, money. There's so much going on, and they just. I think that some people, are able to work in different levels of creativity than others. I think there's a lot of people that will audition for parts that are usually working on a superficial level, and people that know can see it. And if you have the capacity to dig in and do something a little bit more layered, a little more instinctual, and then throw your little unique twist into it, and it happens to be right, and it's right. And they say, I want you. I mean, that's the only thing I can say,
Mm-hmm.
They when people are casting, they know this. They know a couple of things. When you walk into the room, they're smelling you, they're sensing you, they're seeing you. They're very sharp. They know exactly who's walking. They know. And then I was with a casting director one time, and she said, I know the second that they walk into the room because the air changes. The tenor and the tempo of the room changes, and then I just hope to God when they open their mouth they can talk. So they physically suck the air out of the room. That's just half of it, and then if they can talk, they'll go, "That's him," and they know just like that. It's like pornography, bro. You know it when you see it.
All right, fair enough. So, Primal Rage, February 27th, Fathom Events. It's the whole event, not even just the movie. Everyone should look into that. And how can people follow you if they're interested to see what you're up to next?
Well, I do the internet pimping thing, so you got to do it. It's kind of shameless, and it's a little embarrassing, but I try not to go too far over the top. You're not going to see what I'm eating for lunch, shit like that. Facebook, Marshal Hilton, 1L, Marshal Hilton at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's the IMDb, and there's my website that's got news going on and whatever. And that's, and then things like this. I've been doing a lot of press for the film, and I'll be banging through this stuff until the movie comes out, and probably a little bit after, because we still have to pimp out to Europe. So,
yeah, very cool. And I really appreciate coming on. It's been a lot of fun talking to you.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I just you and your fans. Thank you for the support, and hopefully we'll get to do this again soon, brother.
Yeah, definitely. Next time you got, it doesn't have to be a Bigfoot movie. Anything genre related. Happy to have you back on.
Echoes of Fear,
Okay.
coming out later this year. It was a film by Brian Avenay Bradley and his wife. Let me see here. You may have known some of their stuff. It's a supernatural thriller, kind of a ghost type of thing. And they did Ghost of the Needle, Dark Remains. And they did their last one was Malignant with Brad Dourif and Gary Cairns.
Okay.
And that one will be, if you're into that kind of stuff, I guarantee you the character I play, you'll go, no way. No freaking way. Very different from me. I mean, way different. That one would be one that you'll probably dig. And then Astro, the sci-fi film I did with Gary Daniels, Michael Pare, Louis Mandylor, Dominique Swain, a couple others. That'll be coming out this year too.
Oh, very cool. Well, I look forward to seeing them and continued success.
Thank you, sir, and have a good one.
You as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, this is Dee Wallace from E.T. and Cujo, and you're listening to Without Your Head.